Well, hello and aloha. It is November 13th, Friday the 13th today here. Just realizing that. Welcome to Spotlight Hawaii. I'm Ryan Kalesuji, joined by Yanji Denise. And today we have some more special guests to talk about the state. And of course, as we kind of go through this pandemic together, obviously tourism is a big part of Hawaii's economy. And we're going to be talking to two leaders in our tourism industry, Yanji.
Yeah, that's right. And aloha, good morning to Amy there from Blue Springs, Missouri. If you're watching from the mainland or wherever you're watching from, let us know where you are today and the questions that you have for our two very special guests, as Ryan said, leaders in the tourism and travel industry here in Hawaii and really around the world. We're talking this morning to Jeff Wagoner of Outrigger and also Peter Ingram of Hawaiian Airlines. So two sides of the same coin, really. It's wonderful to have both of you this morning. Of course, Trans-Pacific travel reopened in Hawaii on October 15th. Peter, I want to start with you. What are the flights looking like and what kind of volume are you seeing with folks coming into the islands?
Thanks. Great to be with you again this morning. We've seen things pick up nicely. It's still a long way from what we had in 2019, and we're not back to normal by any means yet. But we are flying airplanes that are about 50 or 60% full on a reduced schedule from what we normally do, and we've based on the demand we're seeing, we've started to add back to our schedule. So we've added some extra flights beginning in November, pick it up a little bit in the middle of November, and by December 15th, we will have at least some level of flight activity from every one of the 13 origin points we served on the U.S. mainland prior to the pandemic. So we're cautiously optimistic about building back, but it's still only about a quarter of the total passenger levels that you would have had a year ago at this time.
And Jeff, how about for you? What are you noticing with the hotels that you manage with Outrigger here on the island and really throughout the world, actually?
Well, Ryan, thanks for having me as well. I appreciate it. And, it's been interesting. Since the 15th of October, we've seen about a 10% increase in traffic come through. And a lot of that is into the future. When you look at the booking window into hotels or into resort destinations in general, it's not like a typical urban environment. It's 30, 60, 90-day window of booking. So about not 10 percentage points, but 10% increase in travel thus far. We are seeing some nice increase over the holidays, which will be great to see. But I think we all knew it wasn't going to be a stampede of travel back in. It's complicated because of the testing protocols that you have to have prior to coming here. And so we believe it's going to be a very gradual growth over the next several months.
This is really a question for both of you. Peter, we'll start with you. What can you tell us a little bit about the profile of the travelers that are coming? Hawaii is, of course, around the holidays, really a family destination, but I'd imagine that it's, rather difficult to travel with children at this time. So who's actually coming here? What can you tell based on, the people who are boarding the planes?
Yeah, it's evolved a little bit. Over the course of the quarantine, we saw a much greater proportion of solo travelers, people traveling with only one passenger on an itinerary than we traditionally had. That mix has gone a little bit back to normal with the party sizes. So people are traveling in groups again, at least, 2s and 3s and 4s. What we're seeing a little bit is that the passenger demographic, and this is not surprising, has skewed a little bit younger, so a little bit of reduction in some of our age 60 plus visitors who are probably appropriately a little bit more hesitant about venturing out given the nature of this pandemic and who it affects.
And Jeff, really same question for you. And you're interested to know, as you look into the future around the Christmas holidays, are you seeing bookings for more families, or is it reflecting the trends that Peter's seeing with more solo and younger travelers?
A lot of the same that Peter just mentioned. So we're seeing a lot of solo travelers. We're seeing younger, as Peter mentioned. Some family travel we're seeing pick up over the holidays. What's interesting about this dynamic is because of the number of people in general, we're worried about spend. And what we're seeing right now is not the same kind of spend that we would have seen before from a group of individuals that travel because there are a lot less travelers coming through. We're still seeing a lot of local Kama'aina business coming into the properties, a lot of military businesses coming in as well, but we're not seeing that real true uptick in family travel like we all like to have and have seen in the past.
Jeff, I want to start off this question for you. And this is in regards to, of course, the pre-travel testing that's happening. Of course, we know that people can get this test and bypass that 14-day quarantine upon arrival if they do not have a positive result and test negative. But there are some individuals who are not getting tested and are going into that 14-day quarantine. Are you seeing those types of visitors arriving who are going into quarantine into your hotels? And if so, how are you distinguishing the difference between those that have bypassed the quarantine and those who are actually in that 14-day quarantine?
Yeah, it's a great question, Ryan. And the last thing in the world we all want is travelers who have not been tested running around the island. That's, we're all very careful and cautious about that and don't want that. There's some anecdotal numbers that are out there. I'm sure the state can tell us a little bit more, but what we're hearing now is about 10+% of the travelers are either coming in without a test or they have a test from the wrong provider, not one of the trusted providers. And that compounds itself over time. And we're hearing today that there could be upwards of 10,000 people who are either in some type of a quarantine or have not had a test prior to coming here. So it is something that we need to bridge that gap somehow so that we can all feel more confident that everybody's had some testing. And I know that, we're working with the mayor, and I know that others are working with the governor on how can we bridge that gap? How can we make sure that if children come in untested, or if we have that many people in quarantine, how do we get them a test so that we know and feel confident that they actually are COVID-free and that they can go out and enjoy Hawaii?
And Peter, this question for you, sorry, if we can just expand upon that same question that I asked Jeff about those who are testing and not testing, but more on the programs and things that you have started at Hawaiian Airlines to help initiate and help people get this testing done. What are you seeing in terms of people that are taking this test before traveling?
A couple of things we've done, in addition to the partners that the state has identified for pre-travel testing, we've brought a couple of testing partners that have been approved by the state, including Vault Health, which is a company that does a mail order test, and they do a Zoom call to verify your identity. So it's an observed by that who is taking the sample. And that's been a great partnership for us. And it helps solve the issue of making tests available for people who may not have access to one of the other testing providers based on their location. And we just announced a new program yesterday so that people can get that test pay for it with Hawaiian miles instead of with cash, which is another option to make things accessible. We've also got a company called Worksite Labs that we've partnered with to stand up a lab dedicated to Hawaiian Airlines and Hawaii travelers near the San Francisco airport. We're working to get one. We've been delayed a little bit in Los Angeles by some zoning issues, and we've got a couple of other locations in key destinations where we're bringing that on. So we want to bring more testing partners into the program to make it easier for people to get tested. So as Jeff says, we have increase that proportion of people who are coming in tested, who are able to enjoy Hawaii and not have people in quarantine dissatisfied and not tested, candidly.
We always like to bring in the audience here. And Peter, this is really a question for you. Well, actually, it's a question for both, but we'll start with you. Ivan wants to know, do you feel that mandatory quarantine for Japanese tourists upon return back to Japan is a deterrent in their travel plans? I know that you've been flying back and forth to Japan for some time now. Can you tell us about what that looks like and how many people you're actually seeing participate, given that, as Ivan points out, they do have to quarantine for 14 days when they go back to Japan?
Yeah, it's absolutely a deterrent, and it is going to reduce demand. And we're talking about, steps on a process. Frankly, having to get a test and paying for the cost of a test, $100 or $150 in Japan, I understand the cost is even higher. That's some level of deterrent, but it's less of a deterrent than a quarantine. Being able to avoid the quarantine here, but not in Japan, gets you somewhere along the demand spectrum, but it doesn't get you back to if you could avoid quarantine on both ends of the trip. So what we're trying to do is move people through that process where we can access more demand, but do it in a way that keeps our community safe by making sure that people are getting tested before they come in.
And Yunji, I think that when we look at this testing and what's happening today, it's clear that we're going to have to modify some of these testing protocols, or else we're not going to end up with a lot of visitors into Hawaii. It is complicated, as much as I think we all like it, because there's some comfort that people are being tested, which we're really happy about, but it is hard. And I've had numerous conversations with travelers into the islands. It's explained how complicated it really is to come here. So it is absolutely not only a deterrent from Japan and going back to Japan, it's a deterrent coming here from the mainland right now. And if we could get more trusted providers, you can't even go to a hospital today, your own hospital or your own doctor, and get a test and get over here. You have to go to one of our trusted partners, and that's it. We had our CEO of our parent company come out here recently, and he struggled to find anywhere to get a test. And so it is complicated. We know we want it in place to keep everybody safe, our residents, our employees, and our guests. But somehow, some way, we're going to have to loosen this up, or we're going to end up with not a lot of travel coming to the islands anytime soon.
You know, I want to ask both of you this question, and maybe Jeff, we'll start off with you here. We're seeing the case numbers rising on the mainland, and we're seeing sort of the surge that's also happening in Europe. How concerned are you about that, and how that potentially could impact Hawaii and travel here? Is that something that you guys are paying attention to, and how do you sort of manage through that with case numbers rising throughout the country?
Yeah, we definitely are concerned about that, Ryan. And it's why we do want testing in place, because we want people to come in without COVID. And that's really important. But the governor from California just put a travel advisory in place. You know, he's not saying you can't travel to Hawaii or anywhere else, but he's putting a travel advisory in place. So that's problematic. A survey just came out and said 7 of 10 people won't travel over the holidays. And that's clearly not typical. So, you know, we're concerned, but at the same time, I like that we have our protocols in place. We want people to come here safely. We're one of the safest places on the planet to be able to travel to. So that is good news for us as well. So, you know, we're optimistic about the future. Just to give you a little bit of a sense of the numbers, the Smith Travel, who does all kinds of reporting in the hospitality industry on occupancy and what's going to happen, they came out with their new occupancy for 2021 for Hawaii this morning. And in that, they said that we would run 14% occupancy in January, 18% occupancy in February, and 21% in March. So about 20%, 19 or 20% occupancy, when we would have run 85% during that same period of time. So that clearly shows you that travel is tapped down pretty significantly, and we've got to find new ways to open things back up.
And Peter, same kind of expansion question of you with those case numbers rising on the mainland. What are you folks doing to maybe just educate people about when they come to Hawaii, making sure that they are wearing masks, you know, and really trying to get the word out about some of the things that we do here in Hawaii that are helping to keep our numbers down?
Yeah, I mean, I'm absolutely concerned about the numbers on the mainland. I'm concerned, you know, not just from the perspective of demand for travel to Hawaii, but just for our country and for our broader economy. It's a situation we have to get under control, and I think we all have a part in taking responsibility and making sure we're adhering to practices that keep us safe in whatever community we're in the country. One of the things we've launched is something we're calling Travel Pono, which is asking our guests, as you know, part of their responsibility when they come to Hawaii is that they respect what we're doing in our community to keep safe, and that they're adhering to those practices. And we're trying to make sure they're informed of those practices, whether it's universal mask wearing, distancing, taking care of all those protocols so that we can get a good thing going back again, and we can keep it going. And we're doing that through some of the messaging we have before people travel, where we have video on our airplanes. We're using that to communicate, but we're trying to get the message about personal responsibility. And frankly, I've asked all of our employees when they travel to think about setting the right example for people about wearing the face coverings on the airplane, keeping distance at the airport. Set the example for people, and let's each take our own responsibility in making sure we get this virus under control.
I have a question about finances for both of you. Peter, let's start with you. The last time you were on, you said that the airline was losing upwards of $3 million a day. What kind of a difference has the Trans-Pacific travel reopening meant for the bottom line of the airline?
Yeah, well, we've projected that out for the fourth quarter, and we expected to bring that number down to closer to $2.2 million a day, which is still way too much, and it's not sustainable over the long term, but we're on an improving trend. One of the things we're facing is we are bringing more revenue in now. We've got more bookings going forward, and so we look at the credit card receipts every day, the numbers are going up. But the offset to that is we're flying more, we're paying more for our staff, we're paying more for fuel and operating costs of airplanes, and that's a necessary part of generating that revenue. So we've got to have those revenue gains catch up to costs as we're ramping up the operation and spending more at the same time.
And Jeff, for you, those occupancy numbers that you laid out there, I mean, they're improving, but that's still, 20% to 85% is a big gap. So what does that mean for your bottom line right now?
Yunji, it's clearly when you start talking about we're losing less money when we get to certain occupancy levels, you know that's not a good thing, but it is positive territory. So when we're opening the Beachcomber Hotel today, and we've decided to open that hotel, even though we have other hotels open in the market, because we believe we can get above 10 to 15% occupancy in that property right away. And at that stage, we will start losing less money. Typically in hotels, you're going to see that they're going to need to be between 50 and 55% occupancy in order to be profitable after debt. So you see, we clearly have a long way to go. We're projecting now, the industry is projecting about 45% occupancy for 2021. So most hotels or hotel companies will not be profitable in Hawaii during 2021. So we've got a lot of work to do. Because of that, there's a lot of people who are out of work who we're trying to bring back. If the sooner we can get the appropriate testing in place and travel really stimulated back to Hawaii, the better off we're all going to be.
I want to bring up the topic of neighbor island travel and just the Kama'aina economy. Of course, we know that there has been some confusion over what testing is happening in each of the various counties as each island and each mayor sort of implemented their own sort of procedure upon arriving on the island. It's been about a month now, so maybe people are now getting used to that. Do you feel that lifting the inter-island quarantine for residents would help both of your industries? And is that a conversation that you folks have had or are having with anyone on the state level to maybe promote more of this, ability to travel inter-island? Peter, we'll start off with you.
I don't think we're going to see a meaningful recovery in neighbor island travel until we have the removal of the quarantine. The cost of a test relative to the cost of traveling on a neighbor island journey, and particularly because a lot of times people are traveling and staying with friends and family and they don't have any accommodation costs on the other end. It's just disproportionate to the cost and it deters a lot of travel. We've seen some uptick in volume on our neighbor island flights, but it's really more related to connecting travel off of long haul trips than it is any meaningful recovery in the neighbor island local demand. So I think it's good to have at least some outlet available in terms of a testing option, but I really don't think for neighbor island travel this is anything close to a long-term solution.
I think on the hotel side, when we didn't have the need for a test for inter-island travel, there was an uptick in travel, no doubt about it. And as soon as they put it in place, it went back down. We know that on Oahu, we had a surge at one point, and that's really what created the situation for tapping down the travel from Oahu. Now that even though the numbers have gone up slightly, we're nowhere near the 300 cases a day that we were at before. So I would love to see us be able to travel inter-island without the test. And at some point, I think that would stimulate some business for all the islands and the hotel side as well as the airlines.
Anne's got a question for you, Peter. Just wondering when Hawaii and Hawaiian Airlines think they'll be able to resume travel between the islands and New Zealand. Has there been any discussions into that end?
New Zealand has really kept themselves pretty closed off during this time period. And if you know, one of the things we look at is signals from the flag carriers in New Zealand and Australia, to see when they're going to show signs of having more international travel on their schedules, and really we don't expect it until probably into the second quarter of next year that we're going to see New Zealand opened up. I right now we're working on Japan. Obviously, I expect Korea to come online after that. Hopefully by the end of the year. If not, I think very early next year. But I think we're going to have to wait at least a few more months before Australia and New Zealand, just because they have taken a very restrictive stance in their own communities.
One of the things about Australia and New Zealand, I think that's going to be really interesting is, they have been 10+% of the business that have traveled into Hawaii in the past. That actually went down quite a bit because of the exchange rate. The exchange rate was horrible for quite some time. That exchange rate has now changed. It's it's in the 75 cents to the dollar range, and that will stimulate new travel from New Zealand and Australia. So I'm really looking forward to those countries getting their borders open again, and them traveling back to Hawaii. Hawaii has been a big kind of travel destination for the Australian and New Zealand visitor that stopped, quite frankly, for some time. So that's going to be a good sign when that does happen.
And Jeff, for you, of course, Outrigger, known here in Hawaii, but you guys also have an international portfolio with hotels, beyond just Hawaii's waters. What are you seeing internationally with the hotels that you manage there? And is there any lessons to be learned about in other markets, what they're doing there that you could potentially share with what's in relation to what's happening here in Hawaii?
It's interesting, Ryan, because we're not alone in what we're doing. You look at Thailand, and Thailand borders are restricted. It's incredibly hard to get in. And the same situation there at the resorts is happening here in Hawaii. When you look at Fiji, you have Australia and New Zealand closed. We've got 2 Fiji properties, and those properties have the same struggle. They're trying to work with locals to be able to fill their hotels. So this is one of those situations where it truly is global, and everybody's feeling a lot of the same impact. When you look at what just happened in Europe, when you look at the surge in cases in, so many places have said we've got it under control, and then they don't. And I think we're all feeling the same thing. So we're seeing the same thing internationally that we're seeing domestically, really.
You both pointed out some pretty severe economic hardship right now. I wonder, are you anticipating having to lay off or shut down, Jeff, in your case, properties, and Peter, are you looking at having to potentially lay off more people just because that just doesn't sound sustainable?
It's not sustainable. We feel like we're at an appropriate level right now. We're trying to be very smart in how we open our hotels back up. The worst thing in the world is to bring people back and then having to lay them off again, which we really don't want to do. So, it was really interesting. We called 60 employees to say, okay, it's time to come back. Literally every single employee, nobody declined. Every single employee said, I'm ready to go back to work. Let's go do it and take care of our customers. So they want to come back to work. We want to get people back to work. We don't anticipate having to lay anyone off, because we're trying to do this in a way where we're going to make sure the occupancy's there. But if we end up with a surge in cases, continued surge on the mainland, and any surges here in Hawaii, we could run into that. So I think it's really important that all the protocols stay in place, that people are wearing their masks, that we're being very careful with our cleaning protocols in our properties so that we don't have any outbreaks here in Hawaii.
Yeah, Peter, same question for you.
Yeah, you know, on our end, we unfortunately did have to make some reductions, pretty much across the board for all our labor groups in the early part of October. We oriented that to our best expectation of what we'd be flying now and into the early part of next year, and I'm hopeful we're not going to have to go back to the well and make any more cuts. But like Jeff said, it really does depend on where things develop from here in terms of demand and our ability to keep people productive. So we certainly aren't planning on having to do any more, but we've got to keep things moving in a positive direction so that we can get people back not just on payroll but fully employed and active.
You know, I kind of want to do something a little out of the box. We haven't actually done this before, but I want to ask both of you, you know, how you personally are taking this. Both of you are leading two very big companies and very important companies to our overall economy. And that's a lot of pressure. I mean, you think of just the length of time that we've been going through this and having to manage this. How are you doing it as a leader of this company? And maybe what lessons have you learned and what can you impart about the things that you have learned through this process that might be good for a small business owner or somebody else to sort of any words of wisdom that you can share of your experience in leading during this time? Peter, we'll start off with you.
Yeah, I guess the first thing I would say is it's been essential to me that we have a great team and a lot of people. So I don't feel like I'm in this alone. There are thousands of us at this company. Our leadership team has been great. We're in many ways probably closer than we've ever been because we've spent a lot of time either together in the same rooms or talking virtually like this. And in terms of lessons I've learned, one of the things that I've always known, but it's really been underscored at this time of uncertainty and crisis, is that you can never communicate too much in a time like this. And even when you don't have all the answers, making yourself available to the team and telling them what you do know, sharing what you do know, telling them what you don't know, and making them feel at least like they're involved, because I think people are just feeling so much uncertainty, you know, especially at the beginning of this, but it's even been continuing. We just are dealing with a situation that none of us have faced before, and I think people just want to get as much information as they can so that they can shape their own feelings about it.
Justin,
yeah, I think that, you know, for me, a little bit of what Peter said is happening here too. Our team has been unbelievable. And like Peter, we've had to furlough employees, and not only in our hotels, but in our corporate office. So there's a lot of people wearing a lot of hats. So you have to realize that people are taking on a lot of responsibility, additional responsibility to what they typically had done. But one of the things that I think it's been so satisfying and gratifying for me is how our community has come together. When you think about the relationships, the business relationships that are out there, and that we're all trying to work so hard to solve a problem that none of us have dealt with before, whether it's, you know, me and Peter, or when you look at the banks with, you know, Rich Wacker and Peter Ho and Bob Harrison, you look at Ray Vara, all these people have come together as leaders of the entire community to help solve the issues that we're all dealing with. And it literally is this is not a once a month, let's get together for a meeting. These are daily meetings and weekly meetings, and they go on and on and on, trying to come up with new solutions, working with the government, working with the governor, working with the mayors to be able to solve these issues. So to be able to kind of lock arms as a community and say, let's do this together, let's work hard together, I think has really put us in a good place going forward as we do recover. And I think for me, the lesson out of all of that is don't let that go away. That's an important piece of our business as we move into the future, that we all stay connected and try to solve all these issues together as a community.
Well, our time is up, and I think that's a wonderful way to end it with the words of wisdom from both of you, our leaders in the travel industry and in our community. We have so many people who are relying on these two companies and really want them to succeed. So thank you so much for giving us your time today. We know you're both tremendously busy, and we really do appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, Ryan, really interesting. Love that question at the end, and love what they both had to say about communicating and also about just the sort of community spirit that has really, all these leaders are working together. And that's good to hear that they're meeting basically on a daily basis. And they all sort of do fit together. Of course, Rivera running a healthcare company, but that's, of course, tied to the airlines, which is tied to the hotels. And so we see just how much we're all relying on each other. And that really does dial down to the individual as well. That's the whole mask wearing, social distancing, everybody being responsible for yourself so that you're responsible for your community. And interesting to hear their take. Still losing quite a bit of money, both of them, and facing some very difficult economic challenges in this time.
Yeah, and really echoing, some of the other statements that we've heard from other CEOs, going back to just that collaboration that's happening. And people may think that this happens all over the place and everyone's going through this and that's happening in all these communities, but it really is, I think, not necessarily as cohesive as what's happening right here. I think because we are an island community, an island state, these leaders are having to work together and meeting together to solve these issues. We see it in press conferences when they're all gathered together and making these comments. So it's great to see them working hand in hand, and also hearing their statements about just the need for, of course, more testing. And we're seeing just on the weekly, it feels like we're getting more testing partners, more options for people to get tested. And of course, that will essentially help to bring a little ease of comfort and knowing that people can essentially be able to travel a little bit more freely. And so we'll continue to see, we are expected to hear as well from the city about a new facility that will be launched soon that will allow for more testing at airports and other partners that will be coming online from the state as well. So we'll continue to keep you posted as we get these announcements from our leaders and government officials.
Yeah, and I love that creative solution from Hawaiian Airlines being able to essentially pay for your test with your airline miles, because he's right that is such a, even if there's a psychological barrier to wanting to pay that extra $150, or a financial one, if you've got those miles, that is another mechanism to try to, deal with some of that cost. Also interesting to hear that Neighbor Island piece, and both of them really saying that until the quarantine is lifted, they don't anticipate that market coming back in the way that they need it to come back. So we're going to be talking to Governor Ige on Monday, and we will, of course, be asking him about, what are the plans for inter-island travel and if that quarantine will be lifted anytime soon. Also going to be asking him about Thanksgiving protocols and what he thinks, how he thinks people should be celebrating, and the mask mandate. A lot of people now echoing those calls to try to, do a statewide mask mandate, making it similar to a traffic ticket. We know that there are some hurdles legally to actually instituting that, but I'm sure we'll be talking about that on Monday.
That's right. We're also planning to have Lieutenant Governor Josh Green, who will also be on the program. And sort of just kind of going down the list, we also will be having Mayor-elect Rick Blangiardi, who will also be joining us later this month as well. I know a lot of questions about the tier system that were set up through the Caldwell administration. If the mayor-elect will plan to kind of continue on with that tier system and his plans and his thoughts for battling this pandemic here on the island of Oahu, we'll be asking him that as well. So a lot more guests and a lot more things to look forward to as we kind of continue to move forward through the pandemic together.
It's Friday the 13th, so stay safe out there. You never know what 2020 is going to bring us. So, be good out there today. We wish you all a very safe weekend. Thank you all of you who wrote in your questions. We really appreciate the participation. Please like and share this video and join us right back here at 10:30 on Monday with Governor Ige.
Aloha.